Let's admit and get started. Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
We'll get started in just a minute. We have quite a few people joining, so we'll just give you another minute to get started.
Hey, Kara, how you doing?
Hi, great to see everyone.
Yeah, I appreciate you jumping in today. You too, Scott.
Yeah, no problem, Steve.
Thank you. Yep, my honor. My
And
pleasure.
I think Andre's here. We weren't sure.
Yep,
Andre's
I
away.
see Andre's here, so we'll see it. We'll see how long he's able to hang in there, and we'll hear from him. Hopefully, if not, we'll be able to share his words of wisdom later on.
Perfect.
So I'm going to actually get started. And I am recording. So hello, everybody. I am Linda Nellis, the Alumni Services Coordinator at the Daniello Institute for Veterans and Military Families. And thank you so much for attending today's webinar focused on the Veterans Program for Politics and Civic Engagement, or the easier version, which is VPPCE. In today's session, we have Steve Lux, the director of Syracuse University's Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs Executive Education, and he'll be providing an overview of VPPCE. You'll also hear from VPPCE grads who will share their insight and takeaways from the program. So at this time, I'm actually going to hand it over to the Alumni Service Manager, Cassandra Rosica, to share a brief overview of IVMF before we hear from Steve.
Thanks so much, Linda. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. Thank you, Steve, Shui, our grads, Carrie, Scott, and Andre. Really appreciate your perspectives. So for the agenda, we're going to provide an overview of the Daniello Institute for Veterans and Military Families, give you a quick overview of what we do, our organization. Steve is going to kick it off with an overview of the Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs, as well as an oversight of the VPPC program. We're going to kick it off to our grads for their perspective of the VPPC program, and a quick Q&A as well we'll provide at the end, and with a few submitted questions from registrants. Also, we're going to outline some next steps, how you can enroll in the VPPC program. So really, we're going to provide just a fruitful insight of the VPPC program, and then how you can enroll. So if you want to move on to the next slide, Linda. And then next one over too. All right, so IVMF's mission vision entails empowering service members to thrive. So really easing that transition from the civilian lifestyle into, of that military lifestyle into that civilian lifestyle. We employ our programming. We also have additional resources that our current participants and program graduates can take advantage of. But overall, we really want to just empower our service members to thrive in any environment they're in. And that entails our vision as well. So if you want to move on to the next one with that. Maybe you all have heard, but Bunker Labs, we just was acquired by the IVMF in early 2024 in January. So the same purpose, we really want to empower service members to thrive. And then really our outcomes from this, or you can see the revenue generated, over 8,000 jobs created. But really our main goal is to, of course, integrate Bunker Labs programming into our organization. We're working on that integration process now. But overall what that means is there's more programs, resources for program alumni, and just more to come, really. So we're very, very excited still, you know, with new employees from Bunker Labs joining into the IVMF, really a great community of individuals ready to provide great resources for professional or business development to our veterans and military spouses within our community as well. So great things ahead with Bunker Labs. All right, so now I'm going to touch on our pillars of effort. So really what we do is we start off with career training, entrepreneurship, community services, research and analytics, and lastly, higher education. So with career training, as I kind of mentioned before, we have programming that we employ, such as the O2O program, which is Onward to Opportunity. We have career training in various industry sectors, from IT to HR to project management, you name it. Really, these programs are to, of course, employ that knowledge into our veteran military spouse community, as well as the skills they need to transition into you know, if you're career pivoting or whatever your goal is, but really just employing those valuable skills. And of course, we do that with certifications afterward with employer engagement. Once you finish the program, we'll make, if you need a recommendation to Hire Heroes USA, we have a connection with them, American Corporate Partners for mentorship resources, that type of thing. But overall, we employ a lot of great career training resources. With our entrepreneurship programs, we kind of target various stages. So ideation to startup to growth phases. With that, we employ education and training. We conduct needs assessments. And of course, we do network development as well. So with every initiative we make, we also want to ensure that we help you build up your network, reach the right organizations to help you accomplish whatever goal you have for either professional or business development. As we move on to community services, we have we focus on the the social determinants of health. What we employ is a community of practice of individuals with expertise on different community services realms, the resources available for, you know, you can access many different resources for community services through our organization. We also do that with provider education, engagement, and also funding solutions as well for our different programs and resources we employ. So overall with community services, if anyone's going through, you know, homelessness or anything within that realm, we have different resources for every unique need. So definitely something to think about, even if you're not an alum and you want to access some of these community services, we have a specific webpage for that as well. So that's another initiative we employ in our organization. If you want to go back to the previous slide, Linda. And then research and analytics, we do have a data and research team that conducts assessments all across our programmatical outcomes. We send out surveys, you know, either monthly or every 6 months, just to collect feedback from our program participants, how we're doing and how we can employ more efforts in different areas of our program. So with that, they also do the data visualization component, how we track our metrics, how we can do better, and employ more efforts if we need to in various programs as well. Lastly, with higher education, through Syracuse University, we also offer resources such as veteran peer advisors, unlimited yellow ribbon tuition assistance, TAP tuition rates, and many other resources. But the main item is to, of course, ease that transition from the military lifestyle into the civilian lifestyle, but we're also providing more insights about how to navigate that student lifestyle as well, because we know there's so many challenges. You know, if you're transitioning from the military, you have really that set schedule. And then if you, you know, transition to like a student schedule, there's many different, there's different realms in it. So we want to make sure you're prepared. And we're employing those resources for you as well to take advantage of. So overall, this is just a gist of what we do. If you want to navigate to the next slide, Linda. Thank you. So with community services, it's kind of an expansion of our community service pillar of effort. So we have experience in 18 communities. Like I mentioned before, we do provide landscape assessments, operations guidance, and then we employ measurement and evaluation across the different resources that we offer. We, like I said, have a community of practice that gets together at different points in the year just to come together and provide best practices, other items we can employ into our process on how to refine it a little bit to be able to provide the best resources for our veteran and military spouse community. So that's kind of a gist of our community services. But as I mentioned, if you're interested or if you want to know more about it, please do let us know. All right, so to date, our IVMF impact, we've impacted over 200,000 individuals. That's about 23,000, or if you want to go back, Linda, to the, thank you, 23,000 impacted annually. We have over 100 professional teammates across the country. We're currently operating in 46 states, and we do offer 14 national no-cost training programs. Some key partnerships for us include the DoD, Department of Labor, VA, Small Business Administration, just to name a few. But overall, this is kind of an overview of our impact as an organization. All right, so with post-program support, this is just an insight of the type of support that you can receive as an alum. As a VPPCE alum, you have access to funding resources. We can provide information on grant opportunities available. We also have mentorship resources available for you to use as well. IVMF resources, SBA resources, and other business services as well. So overall, with our post-program support, included in there is also access to LinkedIn Premium. So this is exclusively for any of our veterans program for politics and civic engagement graduates. If you're interested in these resources, if you're a grad, send us an email and then we can kind of hold an individual consultation with you to dive into the type of resource you may need, either for professional or business development. But overall, our alumni resources are great for if you are interested in the entrepreneurship realm for initial startup. The best resource that we can offer is, establishing your network. And especially through LinkedIn Premium, you can capitalize on those connections. But overall, we encourage graduates to stay connected with each other, share insights, because the best resource is, of course, making those connections and then just thriving off of any insights you receive for professional or business development. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Steve Lux for his portion.
Great. Well, welcome everybody. I think my main goal here is to get out of the way so you can hear from Carrie, Scott, and Andre about their experience in the program. But I'll also tell you my wish. My wish is that I get to know each of all of you new folks on the line here, as well as I know Carrie, Scott, and Andre. They become part of our lives, and they're a really important part of the Maxwell School and what we're trying to do. So this is kind of a folksy, very personal program, and it's meant to be that way. So just a little bit about the Maxwell School first. We like to brag. We're the first school of public administration. Maybe go to the next slide if you don't mind. That we're the best school of public administration in the country, and in kind of an upstate New York type of way, we're a little bit understated. I don't know if that's also Midwest, or maybe we're at the edge of the Midwest or something. We're not like the New Yorkers. So we don't brag quite enough, but I'll brag today that we're a pretty substantial school. And particularly when it comes to the field of politics, we have really an endless array of faculty that can speak to the questions of politics, how you run for office, how you have impact, so on and so forth. But I think as important, it's the network of individuals that we call upon that then become speakers for the program. So I'm just going to stop bragging there, but please understand it's a substantial institution, and the more you learn about us, the more you might appreciate it. So maybe the next slide, if you could be helpful. Yeah, maybe just the last thing to put here is we're a school of professional studies. So we have programs of public administration and international relations, but our school is actually Syracuse University's home to all the social sciences, including geography, anthropology, economics, political science, and so forth. So we're constituted in a very interdisciplinary way, if that means anything to you. So next slide, please. So 6 things I want to run through, and the first I think is the most important one in some ways, but project objectives, right? So in line with IVMF, we're all about transition. So you guys have had incredible careers in the military, or you supported a spouse in the military. You have a whole range of experiences. We honor your service, and we're here to kind of support what you might want to do next. IVMF started principally in and around the question of entrepreneurship, what they call boots to business. In other words, how to help people earn a livelihood or develop a career in the business world, so to speak. This project is an extension of that, which says, well, what if you don't want to go into business necessarily, or in addition to going into business, you want to serve in a public way? You all have taken an oath. You all have contributed tremendously to our country, and we want to give you an opportunity to do even more. So the objective is about transition. We're interested in 2 things: helping people support or run campaigns for themselves or their friends or family. We also hope that you all find pathways to become more civically engaged. And in this sense, we're quite normative. I don't think it's any mystery that the country has become more and more polarized over time. My simple objective is to find people that are willing to enter the fray, as Carrie, Andre, and Scott have. Politics is not an easy life. If I get to this next bullet point, what's the topical areas of this program? The first and most important one is a reality check on what it's like to enter the political fray. It's a contact sport in many ways. We don't pretend that it's easy. We want to know what it might mean for your family. We want to know what it might be for your personal life. We want to know that you have access to the reality. And in that sense, for that first topical area, what's it like? Is this the right thing for you? The question is really connecting you to people that have done it before, both military folks, people that are veterans, and people that are non-veterans. So much of this program is about experience sharing. So the topic areas is also important to understand. There's really 2 programs that we run. The first is what we call Ideation, where again, the objective is you might be interested in politics, civic engagement. What do you need to know before you make the plunge, so to speak? I don't know if that's exactly the best way to put it, and maybe Carrie, Andre, and Scott can put a finer point on it. The second program is what we call campaign planning. And this is for people who have committed to say, yes, I want to run this year, next year, or maybe down the road. Help me know what I need to know to run a campaign well. And so when I talk about the topical areas, they're kind of divided in those 2 ways. And then there'll be some slides here shortly that actually talk about specific dates and time when these programs are going to run in the fall. When I think about campaign planning, the topical areas, one of the most important things is to understand you have a lot of choice, right? So running for office as a judge, running for office as an executive in the executive branch, it could be, or the legislature. So these high school civics course on the 3 elements of our government, there's opportunities for running for office in each of those domains. The argument we make is you should know what the nature is of those positions before you jump in, and also understand what you as a person or your personality might fit into best, right? Some people's personality fit well in the legislature. Some want to be in the executive branch to get things done. So understanding choice is a big one. Understanding how to be strategic is a really important one. So like any endeavor in life, and perhaps you've gone through strategic planning courses in your careers, maybe ad nauseum in some cases, but the idea is for you to get a sense of how politicians and political consultants and people who are knowledgeable in the field of politics think about strategy. And it could start with, how many votes do I need to get to win this particular election? And not all races are created equal. Some you need a lot of votes and a lot of money, others you don't. It's also understanding what the particular context is for a particular race, which becomes really essential. So the work that Andre Scott Carey did, though similar, had very different attributes in terms of how they ran campaigns or are preparing to run for a campaign. So thinking strategically, communication, how do you get your name out? What does that look like? There's this whole thing called social media that is a bit of an elixir or is mysterious or is strange and different, particularly with people as much gray hair as I have. How do you leverage these things in terms of getting your message out? But also knowing how to communicate in reaction to people when they come after you in campaigns, as they often will do. One of the topical areas, kind of jokingly, we call the dark arts of politics, a little bit of a Harry Potter theme. But the idea is that because it is a full contact sport, one needs to understand what might come at you and to be ready and prepared for it. Public presentation skills is actually one of the important elements of this particular program. How do you not only think about what you want to communicate, but how are you actually going to put those ideas out there verbally? For example, in a town hall meeting, what does that look like to say, I'm really interested in helping my community achieve these goals? Another really important topical area that we like to look at is the question of party. We spent a fair amount of time on this. Many of you, at least historically is true with this program over the past 5 years, might align yourself as an independent. And the reality is it's actually very hard to get elected as an independent. Doesn't mean you shouldn't run as an independent, but it just means it's a bit of a more uphill battle, right? So we talk a lot about how you position yourself within the political system that includes political parties. That's a really important theme of the program. Fundraising, right? It may be true that American politics is plagued by the need for money, or maybe that's a good thing. I'm going to hold back my judgment for the moment. The reality is when you run for office, you typically need money to do so. And then the question is, how do you ask for money? And by extension, how do you ask people for their vote? A lot of folks in this room, I guess, would not imagine calling up your friends and asking them for money as a preferential activity for the day. But in this line of work, it may be actually really important. But fundraising is also a really important component of the program. So my point here, and I'm going to stop speaking on the topical areas, is that we try to cover things in a way that will equip you to develop a campaign plan that you can actually execute and bring to the real world, right? So this is a real exercise in theory and practice. We're not going to be talking about running for political office in theory. We're going to talk about how is it actually done. And that's probably a good transition into the speakers. There's essentially 3 types of speakers that you'll interact with. The first are certainly faculty. These are experts in whatever domain. We have political scientists, we have public speaking experts, we have folks that look at information technology, communication, and so on. So the faculty are certainly important. Another set of characters are actually elected officials who currently or once held office. And so they are going to tell real war stories in a sense. And the idea is to say, what might Maria McConnell want to know about running for office in a particular domain, and you, instead of having the reply come from me or other faculty, you get it from actually who's been in the arena. So those political experienced folks are really an essential element of the program. The third are what I might call consultants, if you like. These are people that are lifelong professionals who occupy space in the field of politics. We bring in a guy named John Zogby who talks about polling. What does that look like for running a campaign? We bring on people who have been at the right hand of our political leaders how they craft messages, so on and so forth. We bring on people who are professional fundraisers. What does that look like? And also how people, look at opposition research. Like how do you find out about things about your opponent that you might actually want to bring to a campaign? So that's a little bit about the speakers. Those are 3 things on the list that we're done with. I'm going to move forward to talk about the program schedule and structure. So if you can move the slides, just a couple, one forward there. Yeah. So the ideation section, which I said is about, you have an inclination to run, but you're not quite certain. Let's have a chat and talk about it. And we'll chat for 3 hours on July 16th, 17th, and the 18th. So basically 12 hours or 9 hours of content. The idea here is provide a bit of an hors d'oeuvre, if you like, about what it's like, and have conversations with you to basically answer the question, do you want to run or not? The answer could be yes. The answer could be maybe. The answer could be no. In all 3 cases, that doesn't mean you're at the end of the line for your role as a citizen of the United States to participate in politics. You can stay civically engaged, you can support campaigns, or you can run. And we talk a lot about other avenues, including folks. Some of the folks, the alum are on this call, have done both of these programs. Some have only done one. So we'll let them talk about their experiences in those sessions. So maybe the next slide, please. Oh, yeah, thank you. So the campaign planning section is much longer, both in terms of number of hours in the classroom, so to speak, but also over a period of time. That's done intentionally, because some of the stuff is meant to be given to you, and then you're supposed to pickle in it and see how much you absorb and see what resonates with you, and also see what other questions might emerge. So as you can see from the slide, we generally hold these sessions from 6 to 8 Eastern time. And Dr. Chen has actually put together a schedule from September 11th to November 20th. The one exception with the campaign planning element of the campaign planning program is there is a weekend on campus. It's not actually a weekend. I think it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if I have my dates right. So yeah. So Shui is going to correct me maybe in the chat what the actual dates are for the immersion, or it could be on the next slide, actually. Yeah, it is on the next slide. So yeah, could you please go forward? Thank you. So just to say, and I'm running out of time here, just to say that the ideation class is completely online, only online. The campaign planning is very much online, but also has a portion that's on campus. So a couple quick things about program expectations. First of all, this is a free program in all its respects, except for the travel that's required from wherever you're living at the moment to campus. And once you're on campus, we house and feed you to the best of our ability. Most people survive those 3 or 4 days. They're sufficiently nourished. I don't know how good the food is or not, but I'll leave that evaluation to Carrie, Scott, and Andre. But that's the only thing. One other expectation I guess I should talk about is, and maybe emphasize, is we explicitly want to be bipartisan or without partisanship in terms of our frame. We're not here to say the Republicans are better than Democrats, Democrats are better than Republicans. That's not the game. In fact, one reason we really like this program is it's one of the few opportunities for people of different parties to actually come together and talk. And that's not something that's easily done these days. But I might argue that because you've all have this shared mission, you took an oath once, you've been on the front lines in various capacities with people of different persuasions in so many different ways, that you might be more able to overcome diversity than other citizens of the United States. So we revel in bipartisanship here. We try to really emphasize that point. So what else? Let me see. I got about 30 seconds here. What other, can you move forward in the next slide, please, in case I missed something? Yeah. So maybe just go back quickly. So I'm gonna ask Carrie, Andre, and Scott perhaps to jump in. And we can either do this in one of two ways. I mean, one is start putting questions in the chat or simply unmic and start asking questions. But I might also just offer that Carrie, Scott, and Andre, we weren't sure Andre was going to show up, so his picture's not in here. Apologies, Andre. I don't know if you're the best looking of the three, but we missed your picture here. In any case, maybe we'll just start by Carrie, then Andre, and then Scott saying a few words, and then start taking Q&A. And if the alumni can answer those questions, great. And if you need my help, great. But I much prefer you all talk to the alums more than myself. Is that okay, Linda?
Absolutely. Yeah, so you can feel free to go ahead and post your questions in the chat. If you'd like, I mean, I can just quickly let you know who the panel consists of. Andre is actually a newly elected Irondequoit Town Supervisor and completed the ideation and campaign planning sections of the VPPCE. And Scott Hunter is serving his first term on City Council that began January 1st of this year and completed the ideation stage. And Carrie Keck is currently running for House District 26 and has also completed the ideation phase. So while we're waiting for some questions to be posted in the chat, I'll just kick things off by seeing if our panelists can just each maybe talk about what made them decide to participate in the program and maybe what their key takeaways were. If you guys just want to take turns sharing your insights.
Carrie, you want to go first?
Sure, no problem.
All right.
So my name is Carrie Keck, and I am from Oklahoma. I live in Shawnee, Oklahoma. I served 23 years total, 4 years at Fort Carson, Colorado with the 3/3 ACR, and then the majority or the rest of my time was active duty for the Oklahoma National Guard. I apologize, we have some plumbing work going on, so I had to move to a different room. But the reason why I decided, so I retired from active duty in 2021 and traveled a little bit. You know, retirement always gives you a little bit more time to be engaged and think about what's going on in your community. And, you know, I really care about my state and my community. And I wanted to, I didn't like what was going on. I don't like what's currently going on. I think, so personally, I feel like the people representing my community don't accurately represent the majority of people in my community. So I, instead of continuing to complain about it, I decided that if anybody should do something about it, I should. So I decided to run and began reaching out to identify resources that might be able to help me understand what the process looks like and how to find that assistance. And Syracuse obviously popped up as a very incredible resource for veterans. And I had no idea the scale and the amount of assistance that Syracuse provides, but it really is incredible. We are so fortunate to have this resource and this community as veterans. So let's see, is that really just how I got to this point? Was there another question too? Do you want me to talk about my experience with it, or
Maybe we'll move to Andre and Scott and then circle back, Carrie. Be awesome. Thank you so much.
Is Andre on, or did he? I think he had to jump off at one point.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I can introduce myself. Yeah, so Scott Hunter, and I served in the Ohio Air National Guard in 1999 to 2005. And then I've been a civilian since 2005, so a good part of 19 years now. Why did I choose the program? So I, I've worked in private sector. I'm an engineer for an automotive company with a lot of operations in Ohio. I had always sought to get back into service in one way, shape, or form. I found myself working, family, kids, house projects. Eventually life can just get hold of you and prevent you from doing things. I like to joke that I had a midlife crisis and now I need to get involved. But I was looking to do something, and I actually began prior to this program trying to get involved in local government in our city. I had a failed attempt back in 21. I was looking about other options for continuing education, and where I was reading through various Syracuse sub pages and whatnot, and I came across this program. So it wasn't advertised to me or anything, but I had began to read about it. I saw, similar to what we're recording today, a program overview, that maybe a 60-minute video that I had watched, and was interested, and I wanted to apply the first thing. So I think part of what I wanted to do is run a successful campaign. So I ran for city council. I began serving, as was mentioned, in the Marysville City Council in January of 24. But I wanted to run a successful campaign. I wanted to go about it the right way. And that is why I did this. I did the campaigning section of this. I don't think I did the ideation, but I saw it as an opportunity to learn and to do things with some strategy and an approach that hopefully was going to launch into a successful public service elected official endeavor. So, yeah.
Thanks, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if there are any questions out there that, particularly to the alums.
You said, are there questions from?
Sorry, yeah.
You're asking folks, yeah.
I do have a submitted question. I can share if you guys want to take turns at answering that. So first of all, how has the VPPC program enhanced your understanding of the political landscape?
Sure. Do you want me to go, Carrie? You're muted. I think
Sure, sure. Go ahead,
yeah,
Scott.
okay. Yeah, sure. So, oh man, there's so many things that I could talk about in reply to that question. So first of all, I look at veterans like my personal heroes. I honestly do. I'm partial to any political candidate if they're a veteran. When going into this program, you're surrounded by veterans and people with military affiliation, families of, and whatnot. There, you kind of face a reality that there is a perspective from the general population that is different than someone who has served or someone who knows or is related to those that serve. So you're challenged to face somewhat of a reality, but then also learn how to leverage your veteran status or your affiliation, leverage that, and hopefully evolve that into success. So that was one point that we touched on during the in-person discussions, and I really took that that perspective away with me. I think we learned about candidate viability, about what makes you not only a good candidate. You probably all think that you're a good candidate to yourselves, but you have to actually take an honest look from an outward point of view to how would you be a successful candidate in the eyes of, let's say, a Republican Party that you are seeking an endorsement of? How would you look from an outside point of view as a viable candidate from the Fraternal Order of Police, for example, like these different associations that you would seek an endorsement from? You ask those questions, you talk through that. A lot of lessons learned in all of that discussion. I also, and I apologize if there's background noise here too, but the structure and strategy associated with various campaigns, we heard, as I think Steve had outlined, you hear from political candidates who either are serving or have served, and you hear from local candidates, county, state, and even federal elected officials. So you get to understand what it looks like running as a campaign in that type of platform, how the strategy is completely different depending on what level of office that you're seeking. And you have to go about it, and also the schedules that are associated with it. If you want to run into a race coming around in October of this year, and you're seeking a federal or a state office, like forget about it. You're way past the deadline already. So it really brings to light a lot of the considerations that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So Carrie, go ahead.
Thank you, Scott. That was great. Thank you for that input, and congratulations on your win.
Hey, thank you.
So, yes, Syracuse provided so many opportunities to learn from individuals who had already run successfully, and also individuals who weren't necessarily successful in their race. But it's, as in during any mission, we learned what works right, and what we did wrong, and we implement those lessons into what we're doing, our planning process, and our mission accomplishment. So it was great to hear from the various perspectives as well. They had candidates from all political persuasions. And in our class too, we had people from different political affiliations and backgrounds. So it was good to see that and hear from people who maybe have a little bit different mindset than you, but that realistically, we're all working towards a goal of making our communities better and improving our democracy and our country as veterans. So I think my favorite part was really both learning how other people have done it, and moving a campaign from ideation through the whole process to your actual campaign plan, and then implementing it as a candidate. But my favorite part was really the people within the program, both the instructors, Steve, Grant, and Shui, and all the people that were in the class. It was probably the best class ever, I would say. And we have really great candidates, and myself, I'm currently running for a state house district in Oklahoma. And then those that successfully were elected, and then some of us who are still running, we're actively speaking with each other and learning from each other. So it's been a fantastic resource.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. So we do have a couple of questions posted in chat. The first one is, once you retired, how long did you take a breath during your transition before going into office or aspiring to go into public service?
That's for you, Carrie.
Well, let's see, I retired in 2021 and traveled a little bit for about a year or so. And then in the last year, in 2023, I took a job at our state senate just to see kind of what the process looked like. So I'd say maybe a year. I did work on a political campaign in 2022. So, I'm sure it varies for everyone, but that year or so after I retired gave me an opportunity to relax and breathe deep and think about what I wanted to do in the future, and also, get a little bit more fired up about what was going on in my state, and really decide that I wanted to do something about it. So it's obviously going to vary for everyone, but it took me about a year.
All right. There is another question. It's long. I'm going to read it to you. I'm interested in advocating for the proactive programs that elevate the physical health and wellness of military service members and first responders, beginning at the local government level. Do you have any advice on how or where to get started? I'm a strong believer that more permanent, lasting change begins with policy being put into place. I just don't know how to really begin my advocating efforts at any government level.
I can take a stab, and please help me out, Carrie, wherever you think, or anyone else. So I think that advocating efforts can happen apart from a campaign, and being elected as a candidate. You can, if this is your heart and your desire, do that. When you go to campaign, you could, of course, include this as part of your campaign materials and strategy, but I wouldn't necessarily dial it in to say that is your campaign and only your campaign. I think you talk about policy. So there are things that I am passionate about in terms of policy that are beyond the scope of what I have authority on. So I'm serving at the local level. There are statewide issues that I have a passion for. I have a limited capacity to influence things at the local level. So I think that for what you're kind of talking about here, you probably do need to think about what type of position that you want to go into. You're saying that you're beginning at the local level. Are the policies that you want to influence something that can be controlled, or do you have authority at the local level? And if you don't, like, think about maybe longer term where you want to go. And you may have to seek, if you truly want to be in like a legislative body making policy, you have to seek a position in which you're going to have that ability to exercise that authority. Anything to add, Steve or others, please?
Yeah, I think it's a perfect answer, Scott. Yeah, I'm wondering if Carrie has similar thoughts or different.
So yeah, I would just like to add, Karen, that I think it helps really to kind of do a little bit of research about your community. There may already be organizations in your community that are kind of working on that. And most nonprofits or a lot of organizations always need help, especially volunteers. So that might be a good start as far as understanding what it looks like, getting a good picture of what it looks like in your community and who you can speak with to actually advocate for physical health and wellness of military service members and first responders. And once it's really important to have your name known within your community, right? To be more successful as a candidate. So establishing that baseline first and getting to know the people and the leaders in your community will really benefit you if you are considering running for office in the future. And it may lead to other opportunities as well to serve in different capacities.
I think the only thing I would add is we've been very fortunate to have a number of candidates. A woman comes to mind, Pamela Hunter. She's New York State Legislature. If I'm not mistaken, she's the only African American woman veteran in the New York State Legislature. Quite a powerful figure in so many different ways. She started with grassroots organizing. She'd never imagined running for office. And she might not have run for office had the local party not encouraged her to do so. But she was advocating. I can't quite even remember what her first issue was. Maybe Shui can help me out. But so I think the point that Carrie's making, just to add to it, is one of the best places to start in politics is by volunteering, by getting networked. It's both a learning experience to learn what's actually going on. I think you learn what organizations already exist. But you also get a flavor for whether you really want to be engaged with people that much, right? Some of us are very introverted, right? Some of us are not. You know, where do you get your energy? Where do you get your passion? So I appreciate what Carrie and Scott had to say about that.
Absolutely. So we do have a couple more. I'm currently working on a mayoral campaign staff in a large city, but want to run for city council in the next electoral cycle. Any tips or perspectives on moving from supporting to supported candidate?
So I'm on city council. Well, sorry, I'm on city council, as I mentioned. I would say in a large city, depending on the size of what you're talking about, there are political circles that I think that you're probably already involved with. And I think that it would be a matter of also kind of wedging in this interest that you have in this idea of moving and putting that forth in these circles. Maybe get a feel for what others might think of you as a candidate and how you could be supported. The county that I live in, there's central committee. I'm part of that now. So maybe even becoming involved in that capacity, although not required, but understanding how candidates are going to be potentially endorsed or promoted by a particular county. When I ran for city council, I wasn't running, it's a nonpartisan seat. However, I was involved in the politics side of it. Some central committee members, I went to a lot of different meetings, not central committee meetings, but I was involved with some people, and I had sought out support. And although they wouldn't endorse me because I was a nonpartisan candidate, I was given opportunities to present myself, opportunities to say pledge allegiance, opportunities to introduce people at events and whatnot. I think that all is a group who is willing to support me as a candidate, but it took me kind of, soliciting their willingness to support me in what capacity they could. So something similar to that. It's going to look different in that scenario, I would imagine, given that it's a large city. But a political environment, being supported as a candidate, injecting, your interest in the eyes and minds of others, and asking for them to support you in a capacity that they can.
Okay, I think we have time for one last question. What are ways that a transitioning service member can begin preparing for the political arena without violating DoD policies surrounding partisanship and political office?
I'm not really sure about that, because it is obviously very kind of, frowned upon, really. I'd say maybe just, I don't know, you probably need to speak with JAG or a member of a legal team in your unit, just to be sure, because I wouldn't want to tell you something and get you in trouble. I know that, there's guidelines and regulations regarding all of that. And if you use, as a candidate, if you use any pictures of your military service, you have to very clearly put a disclaimer on there that says that you're not endorsed by the military or anything like that. So I would suggest speaking with your legal officer in your unit, just to make sure you're not violating any policies.
I'm not an expert on that topic, but I would second that. And I would say that our state rep is a current officer in the military, and there are photos and images. Same thing with the Secretary of State in Ohio. He's an active member in the military. He's a Green Beret, and they both have images of themselves in a military uniform on maybe pages of their website or certain things. And there are disclaimers everywhere when you look at that. So I would say just even look at other candidates, but certainly seek advice from those that are qualified to give it.
Yeah, just to be clear, that's probably one topical area where our program doesn't really take a firm stance on that. I guess we see a lot of nuance. There are some people that are transitioning in different ways, and I think whether it's reserve, guard, or active duty, it can be quite different as well. So, but that's usually our tagline, is to talk to JAG. And then we do actually have some law professors on campus that have some window into this. If it ever became important, like you couldn't get your answers from the JAG officer that you know best.
All right. Well, thank you. That was so much really great information. And what I would say at this point, if you have any more information, you can reach out to our alumni service team, our enrollment service team at ivmfeducation@syr.edu. And you'll see the email for VPPCE listed as well. And if you have any questions or anything else that we can help you with, please feel free to reach out. We'll make sure to get you the answers. And we thank you so much for your time today, and to the panelists for your time and willingness to participate.
Yeah, it's just a pleasure to meet everybody. I dropped my email in there, and I believe you'll get information about the application process, right? Linda, maybe you just said that, I was spacing. But just encourage everyone to apply, even if you're not entirely certain that the program's perfect for you, because that'll just give us an opportunity to stay in touch with you and then maybe follow up with a conversation or whatever it might be.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
There.
Have a great one.
Thanks, Carrie. Thanks, Scott.
Yep. See you guys.
Thank you, Linda, Cassandra. Really appreciate it. Shui.
Thank you all for your time. Thank you so much.